I'm just sitting here waiting for the.
Are we live?
We're live, sir.
We're live and ready to go. All right, with that, I'll call the Indian Wells Valley Water District regular board meeting to order at 4:30. And I'd like to start out with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm going to get Tim to do it since we haven't seen him for so long.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tim. Yes, he did. Good job. That's roll call, please.
President Kaczynski,
Here.
Vice President St. Amand,
Here.
Director Boyd is absent, Director Griffin.
Here.
Director Rotora.
Here.
Thank you. Posting the agenda declaration.
The agenda for today's regular board meeting was posted on Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024.
Thank you. All right, conflict of interest declarations.
President Kaczynski,
None?
Vice President St. Amand,
None. That being said, as of June 30th, I am no longer an employee of the federal government. Thank you very much.
Are you saying you're retired?
I was not fired, I was retired.
Okay.
Director Boyd is absent, Director Griffin,
None.
Director Rotora.
No.
Thank you. All right. Any public questions or comments on closed session? I don't see any public on the line or no public here. So with that, I will go ahead and close this open session and we'll retire to closed session. So we close at 4:31. And I know someone's going to pass me a piece of paper.
But oftentimes you are the messenger.
Hold on. What's that? Last month.
Well, you were gone on vacation.
I'll tell you all, there was that was a whole thing, man. Don't even ask.
As an FYI, John, I am now officially retired from government service. You may have missed the statement at the beginning of this meeting, so
It doesn't even have the thing to push. You have to put the. ball on.
one last thing off the checklist. Yeah, there's a pile of us
All right, everybody here?
here.
Okay, with that, I will go ahead and reopen the open session at 6:06. And so we'll move on to any public questions or comments.
I need to say the words.
Just say,
He has to say the words.
oh, I'm sorry, you say the words for me.
The board met in closed session. No action was taken that requires disclosure under the Brown Act.
I got ahead of myself. Thank you.
That's
Jim.
all I've got. Thank you.
That's where you get the big bucks. Thank you. All right, with that, public questions and comments. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the board on any matter not on the agenda and over which the board has jurisdiction. However, no action may be taken by the board of directors on any item not appearing on the agenda. Non-agenda speakers are asked to limit their presentation to 5 minutes. Public questions and comments on items listed on the agenda will be accepted at any time the item is brought forth for consideration by the board. When you're recognized by chairperson, please state your name. Yes, state your name, please.
Judy Decker. I have 3 questions. 2 of them are directed to Jim Worth. In the adjudication, how much water is the district planning, proposing to allocate for the small private well owner?
That's still under, that's still being worked on, Judy.
Okay. And the next question is, excuse me, how much water is the district stating is the average annual recharge?
Best estimate that we provided to the public was 13,400. That's the best estimate as of today.
Which document is that? That was my 3rd question. At the last Groundwater Authority meeting, Chuck mentioned that the rest of the technical working groups papers had been submitted to the public, but I can't find them.
Not quite yet. We've already, the groundwater and storage report has been provided to the public. There's one more report, the safe yield report, that justifies the 13,400 annual recharge. And we're working very hard to get that released. All I'm going to say is I hope to have it released by the end of the week.
And wasn't there going to be yet another report on something? Weren't there 3?
Too.
2. Okay.
That's not the adjudication.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Judy. Any other public comments online or such?
You have one person online who needs to unmute themselves to make their public comment.
All righty.
Hello, this is Renee Wetzel-Lusk. Can you hear me?
Yes, Renee.
Okay, I wanted to know, are you gonna take questions on the plant and equipment committee meeting?
I'll let the, what do you particularly want to know, Renee?
There's a few items that were discussed and I just kind of wanted a more
Don't
descriptive
think that,
update, a descriptive update.
are you sure they're not on our section E of our agenda here, that any of them are covered,
Not-
such as the consolidations, the transmission line, things like that?
Yeah, well, let's see, I wanted to know about the transmission line. I see that under E and the arsenic treatment.
That's
Think
under E
that's
as well.
And then I just had a question on La Mirage housing area and the June 3 hometown water consolidations.
That's on E as well.
Are those? They're
I s-
both,
If she looks at the minutes, there was no update on the La Mirage thing.
Yeah,
huh?
there's no update on La Mirage at all, so that's not why it's on, and not under section E.
Yeah. And any info I had was from last month's P&E minutes. So.
okay, I just wanted to know, there was a pipeline that had to be replaced in La Mirage?
Renee, nothing?
Uh,
Just
That
wait-
item is regarding replacing the entire area's infrastructure,
and we're
not
not,
like one leak or something.
yeah, that's just beginning to turn up on the equipment.
Mr. President, none of these, the
Yeah,
stuff that
she
isn't,
can-
now, she can call the office and I'm sure
Oh,
somebody
email me, whatever
would
she-
be
Yeah,
happy
you
to
can call
explain
Renee on
anything,
this
and
one if
we
you'd like.
wouldn't be under such constraints as this.
Yeah, I'm trying to get there. But most of the things she had is already under section E, except for that one. And if you feel free to call Renee if you'd like to.
Okay, all right,
Thank-
thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else online? That's it? Okay. With that, we'll move on to consent calendar. I'm looking for approval of the board minutes and accounts payable, minutes for June 10th, 2024 regular board meeting, and approval of the accounts payable and disbursements. Do I hear a motion?
I so
Second.
move.
And do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, okay. And are there any comments from the public or the board about these? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Right, we have, there we go, okay. A little bit slow, it's a little bit slower tonight, but it's consensus with the present board members. Thank you. 9B, Administrative Executive Committee, Mutual of America 457 Plan Amendment. The description of the amendment to the district's 457 plan to allow for rollovers from previous 457 plans of a past eligible employer. The committee is recommending approval of this by board, but I'll go ahead and turn this over to Ty.
You kind of covered it all.
Oh, I did.
We got a couple of newer employees that have retirement accounts with other agencies and they would like to be able to roll that into the plan offered here. It's a no cost. It's the employee's money already, so they're just rolling it over so they can manage it all in one place. Asking Mutual of America why we couldn't do it to begin with, and they said, well, probably when you set up the plan, you didn't check a box. So this
Okay.
is us checking a box to allow that.
It's just up to the employee to do it if they want to.
Right.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions from the board for,
Has legal reviewed it and agreed to it? Yes, okay.
I'll make a motion if you're ready for a motion.
I'll see if there's any
Second.
comment from the public first on it of any kind. Okay, you're hearing none. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I still second.
Thank you. With that, I'll ask for a vote for the board.
President Kusinski,
Yes.
Vice President Saint Amon,
Yes.
Director Boyd is absent, Director Griffin,
Yes.
Director Rotora.
Yes.
Should we also go ahead and plug it in on here? Okay, I did. All right. Move on to item C, Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority, report and discussion regarding the June 12th meeting of Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority, including the board discussion and consideration of issues of importance required for action in the next meeting scheduled for July 10th.
It was actually a shorter meeting. We had actually it was a public workshop on the periodic review. So Jeff Halsley, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, gave a full report on what they intended to do. As Judy mentioned previously, I told them that we had presented the water and storage. And then we also presented one other item to them, and there was one more pending item that we would like to get out as quick as we could. And that was the recharge number that Judy was just asking about. So hopefully, as Jim said, we'll have that by the end of the week and we can provide that to the public. And that's my goal, is to get that number out. There is a meeting this Wednesday. On the agenda, it says the meeting starts at 10 and then closed session no sooner than, open session no sooner than 11. So.
Okay. All right.
I'd like to ask a favor. There was a rather lengthy presentation that was hard to review during the board meeting. I cut some of those slides and I wanted to point out a few things. So there are slides following this one that are copies of things the GA said with a few questions and comments
Okay.
for the board's edification, if you wouldn't mind if I went through those.
You want to do that now or during
Yeah,
the
it goes,
presentation?
if she goes to the next slide, it'll be what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So this was a slide presented at the GA meeting, and these were, I think it's important to point out what they're telling in the GSP. So there's a comment here: recycled water determined to be economically infeasible. I might question whether that's an accurate or true statement. There's another statement here that says surface percolation banking determined to be infeasible, highly insufficient percolation rates. I would also question whether that's actually an accurate and correct statement. I think we have some evidence to say that that might not be. So I'm just sort of pointing out some of the things, and we'll go to the next slide. Let's see if it'll go there. We have, so again, they mentioned this percolation study, surface banking infeasible, injection wells, operating costs outweigh the benefits. I don't know where that information comes from or where they derive that. I've never seen any solid evidence to say that that's been definitively analyzed. Direct use by the water district, they says it can provide in lieu recharge at times, cheapest operating costs. I haven't seen any evidence or reports that would tell me that was actually a fact. So I'm just sort of questioning some of the things that they might be. I don't know where they're getting these statements. And of course, they lead to statements like the only thing that's effective is the pipeline. So we can go to the next one. Waiting for my slide to update. Sure, that will happen here shortly. Hopefully. Okay, so pumping data. So they went into a lot of pumping data. I think there's some important information for us to look at, because where this is going to lead to is there's a third slide or third or fourth slide here that shows what I believe to be the projection of how they're going to divide up the 7650 and what the water district's fair share of that is. And I think it's very important to look at. So first they started out by talking about that. And then they said, here's the scenario if there's no GA. If there was never a GA, what would the pumping be? And it's, 43,000. Oops, I think you went.
So are we on, where are we? There we are.
Jump back one.
We jumped back one. Okay, so there's this scenario, no GA pumping. Then if we can keep going forward. I don't know if we went backwards or maybe I got the
We went
slides.
backwards again.
Yeah, so,
Fun.
yep, we should be going forward.
System takes a little time.
Yeah,
System is also retired, so give it some.
okay.
Okay.
I'm still on no GA pumping on my slide, so it'll get there.
Oh.
Yeah, next
Where did I
one.
get this
Should be like
43,000? Where
20.
did you get this
So this is really interesting. What you're going to see is, this is their estimate of what it's going to be in 2025. And this actually looks fairly reasonable to me. 22,000 acre feet. I think we were at like 19,000. It shows a slight increase. I was like, well, that doesn't seem that bad. Now we go to the next slide, 2030, 5 years from now, after 2025, this is what they're going to tell the water board in their GSP. If that slide will come up. And this is sort of the punchline of the whole thing. If it'll get there. It's okay, it's taking a minute to update. So what I would point to is, you notice that this adds up to 7650, which is the allocation. You can read the comment next to the Indian Wells Valley Water District. Indian Wells Valley Water District pumping reduced to remainder of sustainable yield. So they've allocated, this is essentially an allocation of the 7650. Notice that they gave Searles Valley Minerals 2,544 acre feet. The Navy 2041, all ag is gone. But I think it's amazing. If this is their plan, we only get an allocation of 1,186 acre feet and we have to buy the rest. That is what that says. And that means that the estimates that I'm going to give you later on the cost of the pipeline are probably low, because if they're only, if this is truly how they're going to allocate water, and this is what they put in their public meeting, we're going to be buying what, 4,000 or 5,000 acre feet of water? And my estimate's only for 1,500 acre feet of water. So I'll just say that this seems to, in my opinion, be their roadmap of where they think or how they think they're going to allocate the 7650 in the updated GSP. And you can see how, what they've given to us, and I think it's worth noting.
This looks like be how they plan to pay for the construction and operations and maintenance, and that's to put it squarely on the shoulders of the water district.
Which is kind of when you see my presentation later in the meeting, where I talk about what the cost is, that's the assumption I say is we're the only ones paying, and that seems to be what they're saying here. So I don't think it's difficult to argue that that's kind of what they're telling us. So I just think these are things that it's hard to just, pick up right in the meeting. I had to review the slides afterward and kind of look at it, and I thought these were important things for the board to take note of.
All right.
I
Thank you.
appreciate you bringing those up. Thank you.
So that was it.
All right. Anything else, either from the public?
We have one public comment online that needs to unmute themselves.
Okay, I want to go ahead and can I take the online one first, Judy? Okay. Who's online ready to speak?
Yeah, this is Renee Westerlusk. I attended that GA meeting too, and I brought that up right away as one of the questions from the public. And I was told these are not allocation charts. They are for pumping data only from particular wells. And that they have an estimation of what we have been pumping out of the valley upon receiving imported water. And that's the 2030 chart. And because I brought up about that 1,186 amount that they give to the Indian Wells Valley Water District. And basically they told me this is the balance of what each pumper would pump once imported water comes into the valley. And they said this is only reflecting pumping amounts, and they adamantly said this is not allocation. And so I don't really understand it either, why they're showing these figures and then saying that they are not allocations, because it looks
I think they
like
probably say it's not allocations because I think per Sigma, they're not supposed to be creating allocations. So I think it would be a foul on their part to say it was an allocation in general, because that would be in violation of Sigma.
Well, no,
but you're-
because
you're
we've
current-
had allocation charts since 2020 when they put the replenishment fee in August. It was at the August 21st, 2020 meeting. And that's when they voted, the GA board voted for the replenishment fee. And they labeled it as an allocation chart.
Thank you, Renee.
I don't know what it means, but whatever it means, just fully supports the concept that water district customers will pay for all imported water. Sounds like a little bit more than a pumping scenario to me.
All right.
Thank you for your comments.
Thanks, Renee. Judy, did you have something?
What I had was, I briefly looked at Wednesday's agenda and board package for the GA meeting, and there's a lot of additional things in there for you to study.
Thank you. I'll make sure that
Thank you.
I both attend the meeting
It's
and
113 pages.
And you
gonna
just
be
got,
looking
we
at
just got it.
lots of reading.
You just got a 113-page document from the Groundwater Authority staff 2 days before the meeting.
Came out today, I believe.
Came out
Let me
today,
check.
yeah.
That is
I started reading it before the meeting. when I got off of
unbelievable.
work.
All right.
Unbelievable.
All right,
That
any more?
includes, just to
comments for the
clarify,
public?
that does
If-
include last month's agenda.
Oh, all right.
Caps over.
Okay.
If not, I'm coming back to the board. Stan, you had something?
Oh, yes,
131 pages,
I've been
sorry.
watching my emails to see if there was a
It's Ms. Feason's.
TAC or a PAC meeting scheduled. I haven't been able to find one. Does anybody
No,
know
I don't.
what the status of the TAC and the PAC are?
Judy's shaking her head no.
Judy may want to comment, but I asked that question at the meeting and Judy commented that they hadn't. So I don't know if you wanted to comment.
The reason that was given, I believe, when you brought it up, Chuck,
Could you get a little closer to the microphone, please?
excuse me. I think the reason that was given by Carol Thomas Kiefer was there aren't any policy issues for the policy committee
Correct.
to discuss right now.
Thank you, Judy.
Oh,
Any other comments, Stan?
I guess I would have thought if they wanted to find some policy discussions, they could, in this allocation table as, where did it come from? How did it get approved? Obviously unless there's an attempt to modify the replenishment fee or that whole document, obviously they can't change our allocation from 4,390 just automatically down to 1,186. I mean,
Have to be a,
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I mean, there
This-
should have gone before the PAC. I mean, it's not a technical issue, so I would agree the TAC probably not.
Well, I
not
would think it would
important,
go
but-
before the board also.
But this looks like a policy thing that should have been thoroughly discussed, and it was sort of, I watched the meeting, it was sort of quickly gone over, and this is what it is, and this is what we're doing. And then it's what they're doing for modeling, but why? Why are they modeling this scenario if there wasn't some intention to use it for something at some point in time? Not clear at all.
so they're, go ahead.
It appears to me that what this is all about, obviously it's going to go in as part of the demodeling scenario that's going to go into 2025 GSP update or whatever you want to call it. They're saying a few things here. One is the water districts is going to pay for everything to do with the pipeline. Number two is they're backing down on putting SVM out of business. This is what this shows, because, I mean, they've been talking about putting, let's get rid of them, and now they're changing their mind about that. And another one is, they're definitely want to get rid of all ag, including small ag. So all the small family-owned farms, even though their usage is probably minimal, they want all of them gone. So they're just sending, this is, to me, is just sending a message is all. And I would take it for what it's worth, and they're gonna, this is the tack they're gonna take, and not what we can do about it. Mr. St. Amand?
113 pages to the Board of the Groundwater Authority, 2 days before the meeting is misfeasance at best. Running these numbers out without running them past the GA board, it is clear that the county staff is running the Groundwater Authority and not the Groundwater Authority Board of Directors. And I find that is just absolutely unacceptable. I would remind our friends on the GA Board of Directors that this is an election year and they need to show some leadership at the Groundwater Authority and get this sort of irresponsible behavior under control. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the comprehensive adjudication. Jim, any updates there besides the upcoming hearing?
Just a few, there's another hearing set for August 5th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's on a Monday, as opposed to all the previous hearings that were held on a Friday. During the June hearing, the court set the basin boundary consistent with the bulletin number 118. He also agreed to the case management order that sets the deadlines and timeframes for when your pre-discovery actions need to take place. So we're waiting for those signed orders. You'll recall that the last hearing was to request a phase 2 trial. Searles Valley filed the motion. The judge was receptive to that. but he did not set a trial date. He was concerned that the trial date and that the parties aren't having to prepare for phase one and phase two at the same time. So there'll be some meet and confers before the August 5th to see what the parties can agree upon and go from there. But hopefully he'll set the phase two trial on the August 5th, kind of a continuation from the last hearing. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Any public comments or questions for the board? I do have to ask,
I,
go ahead.
I would like to comment on, I continue, I hate to sound like a broken record, and I apologize, but I'm still hearing comments from people who have wells who don't understand what they're supposed to do. I mean, I don't understand why, but these are not people who are just trying to get away with something. And they're not stupid people. They honestly don't know what's going on. And even though I kind of appreciate it's not our responsibility necessarily to find everybody to figure out what's going on, but at one point in time, a month or two ago, we said we would have a workshop to bring people up to speed on where the adjudication is. And I think, quite frankly, after listening to some people that I've talked to, and since our last board meeting, I think that may be an important thing, that we have a workshop where we pull everybody in, hopefully that has a well, and explain to them why it's important. If they have a well, they need to join the suit and they need to provide initial disclosure. One of the things that Judy mentioned early in her questions was how much water we were reserving for small wells. And Judy, it's important that we know how many small wells there are before we figure out how much
It's
water we reserve for them.
complicated than
And-
that, Stan.
And so therefore, I guess my feeling is there's still uncertainty. And I think to avoid bad feelings in the future, we need to be just as clear as we possibly can as to why people need to respond to the suit.
Stan, I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, after the last GA meeting, we went out to lunch and we met an acquaintance who she lives south of 178 between Brown Road and 395. She has never received a thing from the district. She knew nothing about it. She knew nothing about the adjudication, that she should have filed paperwork. We spent, I think, close to 2 hours with her, telling her what she should do. And I think at this point, while she's late, she did file. But she is not alone. And the other issue, and if you listen to the last GA board meeting and the presentation that George was referring to before he started talking to Jim, my husband Don got up and tried to give a lengthy presentation during their quote unquote workshop about the very issue you're bringing up. How many small domestic wells are there? You have on your board here, David, and David there's a well that serves 4 people. Is that correct, David?
It serves 4 houses.
I'm sorry. Yes, it serves 4. There are quite a few of those in the valley, and Stetson has not acknowledged them. And the paperwork that Don presented and that he was talking about was that very issue, that in allocating, I shouldn't use that word, in defining water for small domestic well owners, they have not recognized the number of four-way splits there are. And we're guessing there might be as many as 200. So if it's 1 acre foot for 832 wells, and 200 of those are four-way splits, they're going to get a quarter of an acre foot each. That's not right. That issue needs to be verified. It needs to be made more accurate. When Gus Yates did the Todd report, he spent about a week here with Google Maps, which was a lot more primitive then in 2013 than it is now. But he counted houses, and he tried to count wells too. And that's what needs to be done. But again, I say, as you have said, there are people that never received the paperwork. I believe it or not, I'm not talking about Joe Dokes who lives in Southern California who bought a piece of property in 1945 and never visited it. I'm talking about people who live here, who have lived here continuously for 50 years. So I think your idea is a good one.
I think that.
Actually, I didn't give an idea. I was just trying to alert everybody that there is a problem here and somebody has to take responsibility. I'm not sure it's us, but the court, I think, wants an answer before we give them, a proposed adjudication physical solution. And I don't know how we get there from here.
So
You working on it like we are doing now. I'm not going to go into specifics. The reason we cannot give numbers is because we're still investigating everything. Number of de minimis, everything. We're not just sitting here reading the GSP. That's point number one. Point number two, I believe you, Judy. I do believe that there are possibly, I don't know what the number is, people that didn't receive a mailing. I will say that we are not required to make sure everybody is notified. But that said, we have gone above and beyond what any other adjudication has gone through. We've held workshops. We sent out verified mail to every parcel. We put out ads, social media blitz. After all that, then we went back and we posted on the houses that we knew didn't receive notice. Tell me what more you would like me to do, because I can't think of it. We've done everything above what is required by the law, above what we could think of, not for the law, but to reach out to these people and try to notify them. We've tried everything possible. And if somebody didn't get it, I don't know what to say. I would tell you, it's a very simple answer. You want to know what to do? Go to the district website.
Right.
Press on basin adjudication. It'll tell you how easy it is to file an answer. You basically sign it. You put your address down there. And then it also talks about the initial disclosures. There is very detailed information on that district website. And I find it hard to believe that everybody that went onto that website, if they read that, did not know what to do after that. That's all.
I'll tell you one thing I've thought of. When Don was here as your manager, and of course, back in 2016, 2017, he was the manager for the GA. And if you recall, there was a big push by the GA to register your well. And I think there are a lot of people, let me back up. I think there are a lot of people that do not take either one of the newspapers, nor do they look it up online.
Good idea.
And I think they have confused in their minds that well registration with the adjudication. They think they have already registered their well if they filled out that little postcard and sent it in, and that they don't have to do it again. I suspect there's a lot that think that way.
I'm more than happy to do another board workshop if that's what the board wants. I have no problem with that.
Only a fraction of the wells were registered. And I would say for the record that the well where I live was like well number 2 to be registered, but there are a lot of people who I have heard say they weren't going to register a well, no way, no how.
Yeah.
2, 100% coverage in circumstances like this is not possible. If whether a rabbit ate their homework or their email that got, I'm sorry, their registered mail got purloined, you can't do that. And if we're going to be 100% certain about how many wells are in the valley, we're going to be stuck in analysis paralysis and we will never have a solution.
And I want to,
For all the people online, please don't get into an audience to the talking to the board.
I just want to clarify, Stan, I agree with what you're saying, but I do feel that we as a board went above and beyond. And we do care tremendously about what happens to the small pumpers, and I think that we've shown that, and we will continue to show that. The whole valley, whether it's in our jurisdiction or not, is my concern, because I'm gonna live here the rest of my life and my kids and grandkids. So I care about what people think and they find out. But I think no matter what we do from this point, like Jim said, we've done 3 or 4 steps. And if we say we're gonna have another board workshop, it's gonna be the same people that show up at that workshop, because if we're putting it on social media or we're putting it in the newspaper, those are the people that are gonna come, because that's who got notified. So I don't know how in the world we could do anything else to reach the people that didn't get notified, besides sitting at their door till they got home. I mean, I just don't know what else we could do. So I think we've done that. And I know for a fact that as a board member, I care about protecting the small pumpers. So I don't see that we're going to hurt them. And I want to say that.
So I am, as a small pumper and the second well registered in the valley, we did not join the lawsuit. And we have every opportunity, but I don't see the point in joining the lawsuit. One, it's be a conflict of interest, and 2, I have every faith in the water district to do the right thing.
I want to take the time, Judy, you mentioned that we didn't know about number of wells. If you refer back to the December 6, 2018 TAC meeting, agenda item 3A, which I think became page 4 of the plan under, it's basically under shallow well impact. It basically uses the Todd information along with some additional information. I'll just read you a couple bits of it. That there's estimated to be 1588 residences in 2014, 491 serviced by the mutual co-op wells, 265 by the Indian Current CSD, and estimated 892 domestic wells. This estimated 40 mutual wells and 892 domestic wells. So this is actually out of the plan itself, definitely from the TAC. So I just want to let you know that information is out there.
Well, I think in the last court filings or whatever you want to call it, one of the things that came out was a well assessment report. And it, I believe, listed something like 850 or 900 well completion reports. And yet at this point in time, I believe Jim, do you have any idea how many wells we have right now who have provided an initial discovery?
I do not. It's my understanding there's like 200, 150 to 200 de minimis owners that registered with the GA. So we were aware of all those. I don't think, Stan, there's more than 200. That might be the high number of de minimis that would have, got involved. And then I believe you're talking about the initial disclosures.
Yeah, well, actually, what the report was a TW.
Yes.
A technical working group report on well assessments, and apparently it was done to identify wells that were going to go dry, but nonetheless,
At risk.
it did come out with, it was over 800 well completion reports And so our numbers aren't jiving. Obviously, if there's only 200 that have registered, and there's, of course, some of those may have gone dry because they went back to, a long time ago, but um, I, I'm not claiming I have a solution now, but like Chuck, I am concerned that, we all live in this community. And some of us are planning to live here till we die, so
We're
we
continuing to
want to
work
make
on
sure
it.
we do whatever we can.
And we are continuing to work on it. We are continuing to try to identify as precise number of the de minimis as possible. So
Okay,
that's all I can tell you.
okay, maybe
Yeah.
at next month's meeting, we could go into some detail.
Yes,
But I'm not sure what you want to accomplish. I
I'm
would,
sorry.
yeah.
One last question for the director. Was that part of the court filings?
I'm sorry, what?
Was it part of the court filings? The report you're referencing?
That report, I believe, was in Anthony Brown's long,
That makes sense.
detail. Yeah, I mean, it was a good report.
Yeah.
You
No. I
know,
just, I don't have it memorized.
But nonetheless, it didn't identify active wells versus non-active or dead, or it did try to call out the difference between small pumpers and the larger pumpers, but that's about as much detail as it gave.
I'll get more detail for you, Stan.
Thank you.
You got it.
All right. Anything
That's all I
else?
have, unless there's any other
Okay.
questions.
Comment once the
From
commenter
public?
unmutes.
Okay. Yeah, I think we have one online first.
Yes, this is Renee Westerlusk. As far as contacting people, I think you could take some suggestions. I think Judy brought it up one time about posting on bulletin boards, like at the Ace Hardware. The water district could post, an announcement about, to small pumpers, you need to contact us, regarding filing an answer to the adjudication. And there's probably other bulletin boards around Inyakern that people read if they're cut off from the newspapers and social media. I think you could hand post a lot of that and maybe get people to come forward. It's my comment.
Thank you. I just want to say this. I believe the Water District has made every single effort and a reasonable efforts to contact these people. I can tell you without a doubt that when I was involved with the trash issue that was going on, and all these Prop 218s were sent out everywhere, and I had all the addresses, and I bet I talked to out of the 1,032 on there, probably 400 of them, and I would say at least 300 of them said, "I never got this." And the address was correct. I was using that address to find them. I never got this. I never saw this. We had postings at a hardware store in Inyakern. We had it at Buttermilk Acres. And you'd be surprised, all the people say, "Well, I never saw anything," until we directed them there. So you can't, short of standing there with every single person, you're not going to get people to respond. And many people are going to say, "I didn't see anything," and I didn't. And I don't know how many times I heard this. I go, "This is what you got mailed. There's the address on it."
Like junk mail and they throw
And it looks
out.
like junk mail and they just throw it away, or a lot of people can't be bothered. I don't want to deal with it. So I don't know how much more we can do. Just keep talking about it. Maybe more people come forward. That's
I
all we can
don't
do.
support the idea of another round of outreach. I think it would be a waste of our ratepayers' money, and I don't think it'll be effective. And I don't know how else you're going to, unless you're going to send Stan to every door where a person hasn't reported in, that we're not going to ever reach 100%.
And look at the example. The GA itself has how many roughly registered small wells? 200 and 200.
Roughly.
And just what I read you, estimates are done that there's almost maybe 800 of them out there. And if that's even partially true, let's say it's just 400, that means you have 200 people who, for some reason or another, don't want to register and don't want to respond. And I don't know what to do about that. And I tell you what, there's a lot of properties I would not go up and knock on that door. As they're gated, they got dogs, they got animals, and you just don't. So if they just don't want to be bothered, they're not going to be. So I agree with Director St. Amand that I think that the district has put all the resources necessary towards this. It's been done basically, in my mind, almost 3 times, including the online stuff. I don't know how much farther we can go.
And I don't think it bears further discussion. We've
No.
done more than we're required to do. We've been as careful as we can be. And at some point, you just have to go forward with the data you have and then perform the function you need to perform so you don't get trapped in analysis paralysis or data collection paralysis. You will never have a perfect picture.
I'll reiterate what Director Griffin said, is that we are in the adjudication that the district is are on board for taking care of those private well owners. And whatever it takes. So we're not going to sit here and say, because you didn't register, you're getting 0. Something will be done that will be taken into account, and Sigma requires it.
Judy
Yes.
Decker, I think you missed one of my points. That in this groundwater authority update, in their counting of the wells, they have missed the fact there are several hundred wells that, yes, they're de minimis well, but they do not represent one property. They represent up to 4. So when it comes to the water consumption, it's 4 times. And the other thing I want to point out to you, Ron, is you mentioned the small ag. They were doing away with small ag. Most of the small ag in this valley signed up for the transient pool.
Okay.
So when they reach their, whatever their allotment is, it's interesting and it's concerning to see what will happen, because one of the issues discussed when the groundwater sustainability plan was in its formation was this transient pool. And what will happen when those farmers quit farming, quit using water? We need a fallowing program, and we don't have one. And no, it's not your responsibility.
Thank you.
We have an online comment.
Another online comment I
Yeah,
hear?
but this is written, so I'll read it to you.
I'm sorry?
It's written. I'll read it to you.
Okay, please.
Maybe set up a booth at the farmer's market or at other public events to get the word out. It appears there are a lot of folks that do not use social media, etc. If they aren't paying attention now, they aren't going to stop and read a bulletin board, unfortunately.
Thank you. From whoever that may be. Did it have a name attached to it?
Susan.
Susan? Thank you, Susan. Okay, anything else before we move on? All right, we'll move on to item E, General Manager and Staff Update. Now, I understand that, George, you're going to make your presentation on the cost burden for the district.
I
And
do, I
under
want to make
this-
sure, I was going to go through some other things first. I want to get a clarification from legal. That's okay to give that presentation, given the agenda we have? Is that correct?
Yeah, the pipeline I would put under the GA.
Yeah.
Oh, you had it under the GA, but we can do it here in the
We
integers?
can either fast forward through the slides, which I put it in the wrong place in the presentation, and go through that first, or I can go through my other stuff first.
You know, I sort of agree with Jim. It sort of fell under the discussion of the GA
So-
because it is analyzing the cost of the pipeline impact.
Yeah.
And so we can maybe go through that
Can we-
report first. Is it?
Can we just go through, can we fast forward about 5 slides?
I'm sorry, Jim, what are you saying, Jim?
I'll just go fast forward a couple slides.
We can roll through the
Okay,
general
we're
manager staff report and then
Oh,
come
we're-
back.
almost there, here we go.
Oh, he's here.
I guess we're gonna do it. He's there.
Okay,
And they
so
got it working.
hopefully this is gonna go relatively quickly. So, our goal here is to provide the board with a reasonable, realistic estimate of the customer cost impact if the imported water pipeline is built. Next slide. Okay, so we want to talk about what the costs are. They fall into basically 3 broad categories. The construction. We assume that the construction cost is going to be spread via tax over all the parcels. We assume 20,000 parcels in the Indian Wells Valley. So that's, the groundwater authority is gonna have to build the pipeline. At this point, it appears they've been, I want to make sure I get the right word, authorized, not appropriated, but authorized $50 million. So there's a cost above that, and they're gonna put that on the taxes, and you have to pay, you know, as our CEC cost analysis, we'll take their numbers and we'll spread that over 30 years, and we'll say that's how much it is on the taxes. The other
Can I
piece of,
interrupt you real quick?
Sure.
One question, because you said the 50 million, and I was reading the agenda for Wednesday, and that's, are you speaking the word of money that they're?
yeah, that would be
Okay.
the approved 50 million word of money, because I think they had talked for a long time about 150,
150, yes.
but what we see in the bill today is 50 million, so we'll say that's what they're gonna get.
Want to make sure.
Yeah, so we revised that recently with that release of data. The water rights, we just sort of say that we're gonna assume they pay for the water rights by just continuing the replenishment fee. Now, that's probably not accurate, because if at some point they have to come with that cash, you're gonna have to finance it, it may be more, but that's a pretty simplistic way. So it means we start with your water bill, which incorporates already the replenishment fee in it when we escalate costs. So we just say that's how they're paying for the water costs. Annual operation and maintenance is just the year-to-year cost to operate the pipeline. And that all, as we talked about earlier, that all is going to fall on water district customers. So next slide, unless we have questions. So we've talked about this already. The groundwater, they're collecting the funds to pay for the water. That's the replenishment fee. And then we make this point. We're the only people that have paid that fee, and we assume, based on the presentation we saw earlier, and the fact that we're the only ones paying today, is that we'll be the only ones paying in the future. So we don't see anybody else stepping up to pay. We don't see any indication anyone else is going to be required to pay. And so that's how we've done our calculations. Next slide.
Now, are you basing your calculations off of the 1,100 number that we talked about earlier, or are you talking on the 4,350?
Oh, it's on a estimate that we're paying for and importing only 1,500 acre feet. So it's going,
So it's gonna go up then?
yeah, the estimate's going to be low, but I think
Okay.
it's still so, it's still so shocking that
Sorry.
saying it's going to be higher is odd. So clearly, it appears Cerro Valley Minerals is likely to find another source of water, or looking at that potential, I don't know if I want to call it an allocation table, maybe. that's-
Allocation table.
An allocation. Okay, so like I said, this is only for 1,500 acre feet. Now, to me, this is the most GA-friendly approach, is to say, like, they're only importing a little bit of water because it's less cost. And, we took this 307 million right out of the CEC report. 50 million of that gets paid by the grant, so that doesn't get put on taxes. And then there's 10,142,000 in annual O&M costs. Those O&M costs could go up if there was larger cost of water, because you have to pay for the water as it comes in. So this is as shocking as it'll seem, this is a low ball estimate. Next slide.
One quick question, George. Those numbers, are those $2,023 or $24,
I
2,000?
believe those are $20-30 that we did, Ty. We escalated everything to 2030, which is
Okay,
when
thank
they
you.
say the pipeline will be operating.
Thank you.
Okay, so I just put some facts in here. So the 307, we show that we subtracted out the 50 million that they're going to get in grant funding, financed over 30 years. It turns out that when you do the math, that's about 19,533,000 in new annual taxes. If you spread that over 20,000 parcels, every parcel is going to pay $976 in additional taxes. Now, for water district customers, we'll take that and sort of divide it by 12 and add it to your water bill to give you, like, this is what you're really paying for it. So that turns out to be about $81 a month per water district customer, plus $81 a month for everyone who's not a water district customer.
Right,
So,
so that's
that's only for cost,
$972 a year
Yeah,
per water district customer.
right, that's in addition to what you're going to pay
That's
on your
not
water
usage.
bill.
Okay,
That's not
That's
usage.
just
So
tax,
we're-
actual tax.
It's
All right.
just tax. So then, so we took the water district budget, we added the 10 million in extra, we get a total operating budget, we need of 27,392,000. That does include the GA fees for water, which is friendly to them, and it's less the legal fees and the WRDA funding stuff. So now we go to the next slide. And this is what's important. So when you look at the water district customer, if your bill is $77 a month, which is about our average bill, when the water pipeline is done and you pay your taxes and you pay your water bill, it's gonna go to $223 a month. If your bill is $100 a month, it's gonna go up to something like $290 a month. If you have a $200 a month water bill, it will be $580. These numbers are shocking. I mean, that's just, as people who represent the water, those are 200+% increases. At 2.9, take your current water bill, multiply it by 2.9 to get what your new water bill would be.
I want to make a comment. You have $976 per year in new taxes for each residence parcel. That's actually for every parcel, correct? Residents or not?
I consider it is every parcel. I
Okay.
consider most people who live in a single family residence would understand in plain English that my house is going to pay that and that.
All right, but that's for all 20,000 parcels. Okay.
Yes.
And the second thing I want to state is that when you start increase in bill of that 223 from 77,223, I forget the previous slide, a certain portion of that is going to be taxes on your property tax,
$81.
$81. So if you took
In all three,
81,
in all three figures, $81 is
if you
that
took
number.
81 off of that, that would be the actual water bill, and then the rest goes on your taxes.
Yeah.
As
And-
we're assuming that, I mean, we
Yeah,
have no way of knowing.
And the reason we do it this way is because they could divide it up differently. They could put more on your water bill, less on your taxes, more on your taxes, less on your water bill. But the reality is, this is what it's going to cost you a month additional one way or another, however they split it up. Because we can't be precise about how they decide to split the costs up or whether they want to renegotiate the replenishment fee and make a different fee for that. But this is probably a pretty good estimate of where it's going to be, given the funding that they've received to date and what the cost analysis told us.
So
Does this include purchasing water also?
It does.
Yeah.
This includes everything. This includes, construction and the water purchase, but that's only a purchase of 1,500 acre feet, not
3,000.
not 4,000 or 5,000. And it would obviously be much more. Like I said, this could be considered a low number.
So these are 2030 numbers.
Yes.
The plan is to have this thing operating in 2040. So obviously these numbers will increase.
No,
There's-
their
there's-
plan is to have the pipeline in 2030. It
Okay.
says so directly in their
But
report.
the thing is, the things increase and they will always increase.
Oh,
by the year.
they
Operating
will.
costs, water costs, everything's going to increase. And the other question I have is, and this is sort of I think we all know the answer to this, is why wasn't this economic impact done by the GA? I have to ask that question. It's part of the sequence. It's part of everything. What is the economic impact to the local community?
I've never seen a project of this magnitude in
And
25 years of
here,
government
and here
service
we're
that didn't
doing
do
it.
this first.
So.
This is the study, sorry, Ron.
You know,
go ahead.
Yeah, so the point about it is this has all been turned over to the GA. As Chuck, has there been any comments on our, or George, any comments on our reports at all?
No.
No questions, no concerns?
Nope.
No anything?
Nope.
Okay. I just want to be sure of that. So I commend the district and the staff for putting together an economic impact for the community. I think it's important that the community members know what the potential cost will be if the pipeline was to get installed. And with it, I'll say one other thing is that I know that all the other things that were in the plan, such as recycled water, working with LADWP for water banking, whatever it may be, were all decided they were uneconomical and not feasible. But my question is, I've never seen an economic impact on any of those. I've never seen what kind of political efforts were made if necessary. And I've never seen anything about available grants. Because if you look at recycled water, if whatever the cost of the project may be, I mean, there was a big push in California, at least when they had money, there was a lot of money available for putting recycled water programs in. We may have missed that boat. And so if you were to take that out of their calculation of $6,000 per acre foot of wherever it was, they decided was not economically feasible, and you find a grant that'll pay for that, then you bring it down to a reasonable cost. So my statement is that economic impact is so important, and not just on that project, but if any of these other projects were to be potentially looked at, they need to be done on all of them. And I don't know what any kind of political efforts that were made, because some of these politics are involved, and the right people need to be spoken with. I haven't seen any of that. So that's my comment. David, you had something?
I do have one more slide if you want to.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, so this just sums up my personal opinion of this analysis. I consider these costs excessive. I do recommend to the board that you resolve to oppose the pipeline as it is currently envisioned and funded, if this is the way it's going to work. And, you know, to urge the GA to reevaluate and investigate other options, which is what you have been saying, Ron. So that
Yes.
was the end of my presentation. I turn it over to the.
Oh, okay. All right, David, you had some comments.
All right. This study is just touches on the economics of the valley. It's a more comprehensive study, should have been done by GA staff, ordered by GA Board of Directors, before they even went out and started looking for money to help pay for their engineering. The fact that they did not do a study like this years ago when they should have done it is misfeasance. Two, what is this going to do to business in town? We're talking about the cost increase to the individual subscriber, and based on only 1,500 acre feet instead of the, what, 2,000, 3,000 plus that the Groundwater Authority staff thinks they're going to force the water district to buy from them. At this low ball estimate, it's $3,600 a year extra, taxes and fees and water costs to the person who has a $77 bill now, and it's over $8,000 increase for people who have the $200 bill. So think about that. Now let's look at what that's going to do to businesses, restaurants, the hospital, which is already under financial stress, the college, at Sierra Sands Unified School District. Imagine how much millions, tens of millions of dollars are going to be expended that aren't unnecessary and shouldn't have even become a risk had they done their job properly at the GA staff. Right now, we have the base has difficulty getting engineers to come to work because we're so remote, and it's perceived as not having the kinds of services that many young people would like to see. Imagine half the restaurants closing and the hospital having to either curtail its services or close down completely. Imagine how difficult it's going to be to bring engineers to China Lake. And China Lake is the economic engine of this valley. I don't think the GA staff has given that any consideration. And if you are at all concerned about the future of the valley, I urge you to contact your county supervisor, whether it's Kern, San Bernardino, or Inyo County. And if you live in the city of Ridgecrest, you need to contact your city councilman and inform each one of them that this pipeline's a terrible plan, and it's just absolutely going to be a disaster for this community. The mayor has talked about how we want to increase the population of the valley. We need water for growth. There will be no growth at Ridgecrest if this goes through. We will see a decline in population.
Thank you, David. Stan, you had something?
Yes. You know, I've been saying for at least 4 or 5 years that there are 2 issues that I think need to get resolved before we have imported water. First of all, we need to prove to ourselves that it's affordable. And this clearly says it's not. Second of all, we need to prove that we need it. And based upon current information that the technical working group has come up with, it's not at all apparent that we need it at all. So in my mind, the sooner we kill this thing, the better off we're all going to be. The GA has already spent $7.6, I believe, million in studies that could have been used to do a lot of other better things, more useful things. And the longer this thing stays around, the more money we're going to throw at it and the more money we're going to waste. So the sooner it goes away, the better. That's all.
Thank you. Chuck, you have any comments?
I have lots of comments.
Please
but
do. Yeah.
I don't want it to come out that we don't want to fix the solution in this valley, because I'm hearing what you guys are saying, and I think we do need to fix the solution. I think this is not a cost-effective way to fix a solution or a problem. I don't feel we have as big a problem as Stan mentioned, but there are other viable options that we can do. There's a lot of low-lying fruit out there that we could be grabbing to help this basin reach sustainability. I've said at several GA meetings that I did not support the pipeline. So I guess formally tonight, I will say I do not support the pipeline, and I don't know if our board can do that or not, but I think I agree with Stan. As soon as we can get on board with saying that, the better. I think it will kill this community. It's not economical. People will not afford to live here. David mentioned the hospital, the business. Think what it'll do to our schools. I mean, they're all fun. They're reaching for money for everything right now to try to, our travel teams, and you just can't do that with this kind of cost. It's just not, it's not feasible for this valley. So, from now on, just so my board knows, if it involves the pipeline, I will be voting no at the groundwater meeting. So
I don't,
if you guys want to change that, you need to elect a new rep because that's what I will
No.
be doing.
Jim, do you want to say something before I make a comment?
First, I'm sure Chuck will consider every question that comes before him as a board member with the
Absolutely.
GA. And now I darn near forgot what I was going.
Well, then I go on, you can just key off of me if you want, unless you remember, you can interrupt me.
No, I heard whether or not you thought whether the board could make a motion that you do not approve of the pipeline. I would say, something like that should probably be on the agenda. I knew the presentation was coming related to the pipeline, and if you were going to do that, I would do it with a resolution. That way, if it were ever to be sent out, we'd have something other than minutes to show, and we could have a resolution for the board's consideration at the July board workshop, if you like that.
All right. What I was going to say, I agree with you, Chuck, that we still need a solution. I agree with Jim that we need to work on this as a resolution, because I don't want a resolution that comes up and says, we don't like the pipeline. I think I said it before, that until we look at all the potential other solutions that can get us in line, until we wear those out, again, what each and every one of them, the economic impact, political efforts made, available grants for getting these done, when all that is done, and if the bottom line is there's absolutely no other idea that's going to solve our problem, then we got to look at what can make a pipeline feasible. But we're not there yet. So my opinion is any resolution we look at, that Jim work with George and maybe myself and Chuck, if necessary, and let's put something together that states not just our belief that the pipeline in its current form is unaffordable, will damage the community, but that we need to continue to look at what can resolve this problem and how big that problem may be. So it can't just be a simple resolution, say, I don't want it.
No, we need to work it.
Yeah, and I agree with you at this particular point, if you want to oppose what they're doing on the pipeline, I don't have.
If this pipeline project continues, the problem will solve itself as the number of people taking water from the valley will drop dramatically.
Okay, do I hear any other comments from the board? Anything from the public out there, Jason? From Judy, yes.
When are you going to make a presentation of your solutions to the problem?
I hope we can get
Yeah.
a presentation out at next month's meeting, Judy.
All right.
We have offered solutions to the problem, which have been repeatedly shot down by the Groundwater Authority as infeasible. They don't like banking. They don't think you can treat water and put it in the ground. So we have offered solutions, a number of them. We even talked about helping Cyril's Valley put in a desalinization plant. So it's not as if we're just complaining about the
Thank you.
noble Groundwater Authority's efforts. We have offered other solutions, and what Director Griffin is saying is that we need to have all of those absolutely ruled out before we can go to this pipeline project.
You need to make a presentation of those solutions
I
to the
agree.
public.
I agree with you, Judy. We do.
Well, the safe yield is clearly a major contributor. And so I would think it'd be fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
To solve the problem.
All right, anything else? All right, George, you want to move on with
Go
your?
back to the beginning of the general manager's report. Sorry for the mix-up where the slides were. And I believe that's it. Okay, so water production, 193 million gallons, up from 152 million in May. Obviously, it's getting hotter and we're using a lot more water. We consumed 167 million. You can see the breakout of where that is. We're going to talk about estimated loss and loss prevention as a topic in the upcoming board workshop. So I'm not going to touch much on that today. No injuries to report for June of 2024. I've gone over these conservation numbers, but I always like to go over them. Our 43% reduction. I think we're seeing some data that says we might be getting near the bottom of where we can get to with conservation. Maybe not all the way, but we've seen these steep declines, and I'll say that they're starting to level out in some cases. So, but we've been doing fantastic. The community is awesome. Our water smart data, we had 71 conversations, 22 field visits, and staff is doing amazing work every day. Next slide. If there's no questions. Public outreach. I believe I got a request to speak at some point at the Republican Club in the future. I went to the GM workshop in Anaheim, which was fantastic. Took a course in So You Want to Be a General Manager, and found out that that's probably not what anybody wants to do. I'm just kidding. It was a great workshop. I learned a ton, and thank the board for allowing me to go. So we've been issuing a lot of stuff on social media, FAQs, guidance, including things about how to fill out the paperwork if you own a well. There's been a lot of articles. We forward those to the board. I think most people read them. We're in the news pretty regularly, but we've talked about almost all those things already in the meeting. So unless there are more questions, we'll go to the next slide. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Inyo-Kern Community Service District. So I'm going to read. So there was this, and this is for the public.
Interrupt just for a moment.
Sure.
Judy, did I misunderstand your comment about a presentation of the possible solutions? Did I misunderstand it? Okay.
Judy.
Okay. Well, if I misunderstood you, right. If I misunderstood you, then I apologize.
Think about it.
Okay. Yes, sir. So, this grand jury report starts out with a comment said, how long can the Inyo-Kern Community Service District tread water? This is not a rhetorical question because the community could be just one breakdown away from not having water. Well, that already occurred. It occurred last Sunday. They were out of water. Sad that it was already recognized in this report that it could happen. They're looking at what's going on out at Inyo-Kern. I'm not going to go through the whole stuff. I wanted to read sort of the conclusions of like where they're going, because I think this is where it's important to us. They make a lot of findings and accusations, but what's really important is the recommendation. The Kern County Grand Jury recommends that, number one, the district contact Kern County Local Agency Formation Commission, LAFCO, and the Kern County Board of Supervisors to initiate reorganization by 1 October 2024. Number two, resolution. The Kern County Board of Supervisors work in cooperation with LAFCO to develop a plan by December 31, 2024 to reorganize the district in accordance with California Government Code 56375. And so there's a number of findings in there that are fairly significant, and it is our best estimate that the solution that they're looking for is not going to be a continuation of the Inyo-Kern Community Service District with its Board of Supervisors that it currently exists. So to that end, we have put something on the board workshop for the board, our board here to talk to the water district or the water board staff about what might happen, how that process might work. Would we be involved in that process? We don't know. I can tell you that they would certainly like us to be involved, but that you certainly have some say in that. So we just to prep you that there are a lot of people looking at us in this situation. So it's not a good situation. I will say that in the good news department, our staff, when their water was out, we did the right thing. We considered it a health and safety emergency that people out in Inyo-Kern would be without water. I authorized our one 4,000 gallon water truck to essentially continuously haul water out to their tanks so that they could have water part-time during the day. Our people worked super hard at that. We delivered, I'm gonna guess, how many gallons of water do you think we delivered?
80,000.
About 80,000 gallons of water. That's about what they would use in a day or somewhere in that neighborhood. So we got them through a day and got a lot of positive feedback from the community because we care about the people out there and we stepped up and did what we do. We understand that there are financial considerations. And so there's a entity self-help, and we have submitted bills to Inyokern, which they are submitting to this self-help. We are supposed to be reimbursed for those costs. We hope to be reimbursed for those costs, but emergencies are emergencies. You do what you have to do. So their situation is not good at this point. They pulled their well. The well is broken badly. They have a temporary submersible pump. They put one in, it burned up. They put another one in, it's working. I don't think it pumps at the rate their well normally does, but it seems to be supplying the town adequately. But that's clearly a Band-Aid on what is a pretty dangerous situation in this kind of heat wave that we're having today. So I just wanted to give you guys a report, give you a chance to ask us questions about what we did, give us feedback on the decisions that were made. Anything you got to say?
Go, Chuck, start.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I commend the staff and the employees that did that. I think it's great to assist them. I do have concern about the bills. I don't know how it falls or how it works. But I hate to see them actually billed for it. As a community member, I mean, they are part of us, so we're all one here in this valley, and that's the way I look at it. I don't know if we could charge them a bulk rate or something reduced or how you guys did that, but I think helping them is a tremendous thing, and I think that's what we do. And I also want to thank Bert Trans. I know he hauled for them also, and so I seen him making several loads, so.
There could be reimbursement opportunities outside of billing in Inyokern, I would think, Director Griffin.
Okay, that would be.
We believe this self-help company that helps with water districts all over California is going to cover that bill for them.
Okay, I just don't want to see them shoot them
Yeah,
in the foot while they're down too.
Yeah,
So I just,
one thing I want to say is as much I hate to say this, we can't make a gift of our ratepayers' money outside of our district. Now, granted, this is an emergency, so even if we were to bill them and then for some reason make an agreement with them, we still need to carry it as a bill because we have to show that we're being fiscally responsible with our ratepayers' money. And we got to keep that in mind.
The difference between billing and collections.
Yeah.
But they have to be billed so they can pass that request on to the organization they're looking for assistance from.
understand.
Did they talk at all? So the Inyokern Community Services District that provides water, sewage, sewer service and electricity, is that right?
You know,
Street lighting.
Street lights, okay. So are they, I'm sure they haven't talked about it yet, but I don't imagine the water district becoming purveyors of street lights or
sewer
services, so.
I believe you have the authority for sewage in your enabling legislation. I mean, we could hire a couple electricians, we can handle the lighting as well.
SCE
But-
currently is contracted to handle the streetlights.
Okay,
Just
all right.
call them the poll number.
Yeah.
Well, there's the good news. If we did take over the sewer services, we would have water that we could reclaim without having to go and get permission from the groundwater authority.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a point I was going to make that,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, were you done, David?
No, you're
No, I'm just saying about the Inyokern CSD. I can't imagine that they would completely go away.
No.
I'm just looking at the water portion of this and the other ones would have to be discussed.
I'd like to see them
But
keep as much autonomy.
Again, my accommodations to the staff. You guys stepped up. Jason, your people did, everybody's people did, Renee's, wherever we could help. I mean, they are a neighbor. And I think we need to learn that we need to take care of our neighbors. And we were able to help them. I'm glad we were. And I know this isn't over yet, and we'll see where it goes down the road for sure. We just don't know yet. Go ahead,
I
Chuck.
have one more question. I know I emailed George about it, and I guess while John's here, maybe I'll put him on the spotlight.
Oh, good.
I know we have an interconnection with the Navy, and we also have one with Searles Valley Minerals. The Navy's pipeline runs less than 700 feet from the closest fire hydrant in the Inyokern Community Service District. what would be the process to maybe speak with the Navy about doing an interconnection right there? So if that happens, a valve could be opened. It would be a very short run. So would there be a process in that or to help in the time of emergency?
That was actually brought up by one of our former UEMs this afternoon. There is a process we'd have to go through. There's going to be a lot of approvals in order to even do that type of connection and everything else. So it's not a quick process by any means.
Well, I will personally volunteer to dig the hole and make the tie-in. If it could happen, I'll drop the valve in and do it at no charge.
It's the bureaucracy.
I
system
know.
that has to be met. That's the challenge.
Okay.
So.
Thanks, John. Yes, David.
I think that I would like to see the Vineyard Kern Community Services District just reorganized and allow the people in Vineyard Kern to maintain control over their own destiny. But if that's not possible, then we have to do what we have to do, or what they're willing to let us do.
Thank you. Stan, any comments? Okay, great. Any other comments on this subject from the staff?
George may not have mentioned that that's also going to be a subject at the workshop.
Okay,
Have a couple representatives from the State Water Resources Control Board talk to us about in your current CSD and
I see.
help that they could get from the state and such.
All right.
And maybe long-term options.
That'll be, yeah.
Renee's leading the effort. We're gonna have discussions prior to that, so we have
Yes.
a better understanding of what the possibilities are. So thanks to Renee for negotiating that, for working that for us.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next slide.
So, more to come.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, George, you done with your portion of this or? we're done?
Not quite. I've started making a quick list of workshop topics. I think there's at least one that I missed. So we're going to talk about measures to reduce water loss in the system, the Indian Current CSD future, SB 606 and AB 1688, the water district our posture for compliance with those rules, water district policy on concealed carry weapons permit for customers and employees. I think it would be good, particularly for me, a Brown Act refresher, communication improvement discussion, making sure we're doing it right. And then with elections coming, a review of our policy on election do's and don'ts, make sure we stay clean in all those areas with elections coming. So I think there was probably some other things that need to be added to that, but I wanted to give the board a chance so I could just take notes if need be.
Again, keep in mind, when we do this, that put some time restrictions on these. We're looking at roughly, 4 or 5 hours. Since we're all retired now, except for Chuck, he's got to go to work. So we still look at, trying to wrap this up around noon, 1 o'clock at the latest. So keep that in mind if you start adding things and what you need to do with these. So David, I saw your hand up.
If it goes to noon, I'm going to have to leave early. I have another obligation later that
You
night.
can't possibly, don't work
Oh,
anymore.
stop me. The other is,
Bar the
we
door.
have legal tell us at the workshop whether there's any state or county or city regulations that would control or guide water district policy on concealed carry permits.
We'll be ready for that.
Thank you, sir.
Great.
Done.
Okay, any other comments on this particular? I can't see, I see a full agenda right there. Yeah, more than maybe. So look at it and make sure that we have, because this doesn't even include the review from the staff on what's going on with the projects and such. So you got to add that one in too. So make sure you look at time limits on these and that we hold to them. Now, if I was understanding correctly, do we not have a presentation coming from Tim?
Oh, that's correct. I need to add that.
So you're going to cut him to 5 minutes. So some of this stuff, it may
We
be,
have to prioritize.
yeah. And some may go very quickly too. Maybe Brown Act refresher might just be a handout from Jim saying, hey, this is what you need to remember. Water district policy on elections, do's and don'ts. That may just be a handout very briefly.
Yeah, I figured those would be like 10
Yeah.
minutes. They should be fairly quick.
Okay. And same thing with CCW, but that may take a discussion. So be careful about that. Watch the times restrictions.
Okay.
Slide, George.
2 minutes a slide. All right. Any other comments before we move on? So I think, Lauren, you have everything. I think you and George just need to go through that and squeeze it down somewhere we can. Thank you. All right, George, any more?
Next slide. Oh, let's just keep going
Oh,
all the
yeah.
way, then I am done.
That's right.
And keep going, questions, there we go, Northwest Transmission Pipeline.
All right.
Hey,
Wait a minute, don't we have?
Okey-dokey. All right.
Oh, there we go, yeah.
So we had our pre-construction meeting on June 20th. And Nicholas Construction is going to be mobilizing next Monday, the 15th. They have actually started, going to be doing some material delivery this week to one of our sites. We're having a class first thing Monday morning, the 15th, here on the protected species, the desert tortoise, Mojave ground squirrel, that kind of thing. It's a requirement of our Caltrans permit. And their initial schedule to us, submittal of their schedule includes completion, including all punch list items, the first week of December. So that's where we're at.
Thank you.
Any questions about that?
Not really, you're moving along. Thank you.
Okay. Next item, the June 3 and hometown water consolidations. We've uploaded everything to the state system, provided the requested documents. Right now, the state is taking a look again at the agreement we're going to have to sign between the district and each of those systems. Once it comes back to me, I'm going to be sending it to Jim for review. Heads up to Jim. And also, we're expecting, fingers crossed, by the end of this month, the agreement that will be between the state and the district for both of those projects for the grant funding. So hopefully that can come to you next month.
Thank you. Anything else? Any questions from the board? From the public? Nothing? Okay, annual solar production update.
In your packet is this little one with little graphs. And this is from July of last year to June of this year. And bottom line is cumulatively, we did produce slightly more kilowatt hours than was projected. So we're above the board there by 3.3%.
Yeah.
Of course, there's always those winter months, so sometimes it gets a little below and then it make up for it in the summer.
Rain and all that good stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, all right. No comments? We'll move on. Financial status.
Okay, so through fiscal year 2024, the whole fiscal year, we have revenues of 16.2 million, which is 733,000 below the budget. And we have expenditures at 16.6 million, which is $1 million below the expenditure budget. So our net's a negative 367,000, which currently is 314,000 better than budget. It's the end of the year. We still have accruals coming in. I expect that number to kind of creep down closer to what we had budgeted.
Good.
So we'll be right around budget. You see capital expenditures of just under 2.5 million, debt service principal just over 1 million, and total paid to the GSA to date, $14,126,632.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Nothing from the public? George?
I just want to say thanks to Ty for his help in my financial analysis. I failed to give him credit earlier. He spent a lot of time going through numbers and teaching me how water rates work and all this other
He
stuff. So
lives
thank
for,
you.
he lives for numbers.
He's excited. No, thank you, Ty.
Spreadsheets. That's where it's
Spreadsheet.
at.
Loves his spreadsheets, yeah. Thank you. All right. On to conservation.
Okay, for calendar year 2024, we've had 12 water waste reports received, 12 contacts made, 1 formal warning issued, and 1 penalty issued.
All right. Any comments? None? All right. So we're on to arsenic treatment facilities. And please don't tell me you have people in those tanks at 120-degree temperatures.
I do not.
Good.
They'll start work at 5 in the morning when it's not 120 degrees.
Yeah.
But
Well, it will be after about 2 hours, 3 hours. Yeah.
we have moved the media out to the site today, and we will begin tomorrow morning loading the vessels. Plant 2 is still online with operating at 50%. We've had some mechanical issues at that site, which just enforces how important getting the other one online is. We don't want to be in a situation where we're putting out conservation orders, so.
How long of a project do you think it is to get the medium together and that plan up?
We're hoping to have the media installed by this week. And then it'll be a process of disinfection and getting everything ready to go.
I think I stated it, one of the committee meetings that definitely, I know you're very aware of it. I don't want to see any heat stresses or accidents. I know you're starting early in the morning and you can get a few hours in. I'm not sure how many hours you can get in.
Watch that meeting and I appreciated the comment.
Yeah.
We are monitoring it. We're gonna have a rotation of people that, and only in the tank when they have to be in the tank.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any comments or questions for the board? All right, operations?
For the month of June, we had 44 replacements, 11 repairs. The NODES ran 3 times for a total of 12,054 gallons, bringing our grand total to 9,428,891 gallons. And we turned 33 valves for a grand total for the year of 232.
Well, I think that's the most valves you turn in a year so far, isn't it? You're turning some
No.
valves.
But we're working on it.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions, comments? All righty. Hearing none, then I guess we'll move on to board comments and future agenda items. I'll start with you, Stan. Any comments?
Yes, I would like to thank George and the staff for their quick response to the Indian Current emergency. And it was a real emergency with the heat that's going on right now. A lot of those homes being on swamp coolers, it could have been a real disaster. So the quick response, I think, was just great. And we'll worry about getting the money back after we get through the emergency, which I hope is soon. But nonetheless, thank you, George, and the staff as well.
Yeah, I think we also ought to thank, I think Garrison was out there. I was sitting there talking to him, like, thinking you get paid for this job. And they're like, we don't know. They also were donating community. I think they deserve some credit. The people that were hauling water, they were unsure if they were going to get paid either.
Bertrand helped haul water,
Bertrand
yeah.
Water. So, it was a number of entities from the community that pulled together. I also want to thank the city. We worked with them. They made sure they had their cooling center open. They made sure they had rides for people if they needed to get there. So there's a lot of credit that needs to go around. In terms of, it looked like the whole community, from the private business community to the city and to us, that all contributed to keeping that from being, a situation where someone could have, easily had a really bad outcome.
And also the restaurants out there helped too. Classic did, I know. So everybody pitched in. I think it was good to see. There's no doubt about it. All right, Mr. Dave.
So I feel quite passionate about what I'm seeing with the pipeline project, obviously. The dumping of large documents for the Groundwater Authority Board of Directors 2 days before the meeting is a common pattern. Numbers being determined by GA staff without input from the Groundwater Authority Board seems to be pretty common. And the fact that a study was not done as to the cost of the entire project to determine if it was feasible before they got started all tell me that the Groundwater Authority Board of Directors is being badly served by the Groundwater Authority staff, and that the GA board should take that into account when it comes time for annual performance reviews, because they need to have better staff support where they are. And it's just not acceptable, the level of support they're getting. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck?
I just want to echo what Stan said. I think it's good to see our community come together. And I think that's what we're known for in this valley, and I think it's great to see. Other than that, I have no comments.
Thank you. And I just need to reiterate, I don't want to reiterate what they said, but again, thanks to the staff, thanks to everybody who worked together. I think the effort on this cost analysis had to be done. Somebody had to do it. The community deserves to know what this will cost them in the long run if it goes in. I'd also like to take this time to thank Chris Camp, our SCADA/IT administrator. I think each of the board members received a letter from him thanking us for our help in reimbursement for changing our reimbursement policy and making it possible for him to attain the degree that he seeks. I surely appreciate it. I personally thanked him earlier when I saw him, And I think that taking the time to write this letter to the board, it means a lot to me. It really does. And I want to make sure you pass on to him again. I publicly acknowledge it. I think something like this is important. And I think he stated here, he's going to stay on. So get that in writing. He can't go anywhere.
I'll make them watch the whole meeting to get that message.
Great. Thank you. That's all I have. Any other comments from staff or board?
Yeah, congratulations, Chris. Well done, sir.
Yeah, you
It was
did
quite an
well.
accomplishment.
It definitely is. And so with that, I will adjourn the meeting at 7:40. Thank you.
A letter in your mailbox.
Oh, yeah, I don't check my mail.
Well, there you go. You're like one of those people
don't
that
check my
get
mail.
adjudication.